LDL, which is popularly referred as bad cholesterol, is linked to the deadly heart disease a lot of people suffer from. If you go through all the research papers, all the work which has been done on this site, talk to some of the cardiologists, you would understand that just looking at LDL numbers, one cannot predict if that person is going to suffer from a heart disease or not. But if along with LDL, there are some other parameters which are also not within the range, then the chances of having a heart disease increases a lot. But if you're like me who wants to improve those numbers as well, this is the video for you. In the last 7-8 years, whenever I have got a blood test done, every time I have seen my LDL numbers to be on a bit higher range, broadly hovering around 140. But this year, after making a few diet changes, I was able to bring these numbers down to 113. In this video, I'll explain exactly how I was able to bring this change. By the way, this video is sponsored by TotalMacro.com. At TotalMacro.com, we help individuals live a healthier life by helping them build small, meaningful habits over a period of 12 to 24 weeks. You will find the link to register with the program on the website itself. In 2018, when I got my first blood report done, everything seemed fine other than just LDL, which as I said was hovering around 140. When I spoke to the doctor mentioned that I should exercise and that would help me improve the numbers better. But I told the doctor that I exercise a lot. In fact, I had lost 20 kgs in the span of 3 years, after which I had taken the blood test. The doctor advised me to exercise even more. And that made no sense to me. Given every other thing was in place, every other blood marker was in place, I did not bother a lot about bringing down the LDL numbers. The second time I got my blood test done was at the age of 38, 5 years after the first one. Ideally, I should have repeated that blood test every year, but for some reason I did not do it for 5 years and I did it at the age of 38. And what I saw was surprising. My LDL numbers were high, but my triglyceride was also high. So was my VLDL and some of the other cholesterol markers. When I did a quick Google search, I realized that the combination of higher triglyceride levels and a higher LDL is not very good. And the chances of heart failure, heart attack is higher when the combination looks like that. My cholesterol markers had deteriorated because between the years 2018 and 2023, I had stopped training. I had loosened my focus on diet. I was playing tennis occasionally, but I was not super focused on my health. Because of which I lost a lot of lean mass that I had built earlier and I gained a lot of fat instead. So in 2023, I decided that I'll start working out and I'll bring this fat down, which hopefully will be able to bring down the cholesterol markers as well. I started going to the gym 3 days a week. I started focusing a lot on my diet. Over a period of 1 year, I lost 7 to 8 kgs. And the blood tests which followed 1 year after confirmed these improvements. My triglyceride levels had improved. My VLDL had improved. Other cholesterol markers had improved. But LDL was still the same. There's slight improvement, but it was still broadly around the 140 mark. I thought maybe 1 more year, let's lose some more body fat. And that probably will help me get LDL to even lower levels, because I saw a small change from 140 to roughly around 135 in this 1 year period. So I stayed consistent with my workout. I stayed even more focused with my diet. 1 year after that, I had lost another 7-8 kgs. This time again, the triglycerides had improved, other cholesterol markers had improved, but LDL was still hovering around 140. In fact, it was a bit higher than 140. Now I knew very clearly that I cannot go further down in the body fat terms. I was fairly lean. I was around 14-15% body fat. So something else has to be done. I did some bit of research and I realized I have to make a few changes in my diet, which then helped me go down from 140 to 113 in just 15 weeks. Let me explain what I did in a step-by-step process. The first thing that we have to understand is what is LDL and how is it formed. LDL is usually referred as bad cholesterol, but it is not as bad as the word bad suggests. It does a lot of important functions in our body. LDL is essentially manufactured by our liver, where it combines cholesterol and triglycerides and adds some ApoB to make VLDL. This VLDL carries triglyceride with itself to various tissues of our body. Once the tissues are able to get these triglycerides, VLDL converts into IDL. This IDL then goes back to the liver, 50% of which the liver absorbs and 50% is released in the blood as LDL. Now what LDL does is it delivers cholesterol to various parts of our body. And this cholesterol is used by various cells to make membranes for production of hormones and for vitamin D. The popular understanding is that cholesterol that we intake from food, which is dietary cholesterol, is directly linked to an increase in LDL levels. But that's not true. Only 25 to 40% of the cholesterol that we consume from outside gets into our bloodstream. As I highlighted earlier, it is our liver which manufactures LDL. So it very tightly controls the amount of LDL in our body. If it is getting a lot of cholesterol from outside, it will control its manufacturing to keep the level the same. Which is why US dietary guidelines removed any limit on cholesterol in the year 2015, because they didn't find any significant link between dietary cholesterol and the cholesterol in our bloodstream. Instead, they shifted the focus to saturated fats. The research clearly stated that cholesterol is not responsible for our blood cholesterol, and there were multiple reports which confirmed that saturated fat in fact is linked to increased LDL levels. Which is why US dietary guidelines then started suggesting that we should limit the saturated fat intake in our diet to less than 10% of the total calorie intake. So if we are eating 2000 calories in a day, we should not consume more than 200 calories from saturated fat. Saturated fats are fats where all carbon atoms are saturated, which means that they are all single bonds and no double bonds. Saturated fats, they exist in a form of solid state at room temperature. Some of the saturated fat example around us are paneer, ghee, cheese, butter, palm oil, coconut oil, and eggs. Given the role of saturated fat in decreasing our LDL cholesterol levels, I thought I will give it a try. I used to consume a lot of paneer, a lot of cheese, butter on a regular basis, and eggs. So I found that the amount of saturated fat in my diet is slightly on the higher end, while it is still lower than 10%, but it looks like I'm a higher responder and I might have to bring them further down. The research also pointed me towards dietary fibers, and I realized that dietary fibers also have a role to play in bringing down our LDL cholesterol numbers. When we look at dietary fiber, there are two kinds of dietary fibers. There are soluble fibers and then there are insoluble fibers. Soluble fibers are essentially which can dissolve in water. Insolubles are the one which will not dissolve in water. Soluble fibers are the one which our gut bacteria is able to ferment. Insoluble fibers are those which our gut bacteria is not able to ferment, but they help add bulk to our stool. What soluble fiber does is it combines with the bile and it prevents its reabsorption. Because its reabsorption is prevented, liver has less cholesterol to work with. Because liver has less cholesterol to work with, the overall circulating LDL in the system also goes down. Because liver needs the cholesterol to make more LDL. Fiber also increases the intestinal viscosity, which reduces the absorption of cholesterol. So the two mechanisms combined together reduces the LDL level in our bloodstream by 5 to 10%. Now, after understanding the role of saturated fat and the role of dietary fiber in reducing the LDL levels, I tried to do an experiment. I knew already the amount of saturated fat I was consuming on a day-to-day basis because I was logging all my food items on MyFitnessPal for the last 2 years. The data was showing very, very clearly that I was consuming 50 grams of saturated fats on a day-to-day basis and very less soluble fiber on a day-to-day basis. I went to ChatGPT. I told ChatGPT that this is my LDL level. This is where I want it to be. What should be my saturated fat intake and what should be my dietary fiber intake? ChatGPT suggested that I should bring down my saturated fat intake from 50 to 15 and I should add 65 grams of oats and 1 to 2 grams of psyllium husk in my diet, and the combination together will help me lower my LDL levels. So I just went ahead with this recommendation. I started eating 65 grams of oats on a day-to-day basis. I did not like adding psyllium husk in my diet while I tried it for a few weeks, but then I discontinued it and only continued with 65 grams of oats, keeping my saturated fat under 15 grams. And just in a span of 15 weeks, my LDL levels went down from 140 to 113. Now that I've understood the importance of soluble fiber and the impact it has and the role of saturated fat, I have added psyllium husk back in my diet, and I'm quite sure when I run the blood test again next year, it will be in the normal range. Hoping this helps. This is Vivek signing off. Like, subscribe, share, and take care.